We don't vote tonight. We don't vote tonight. Suppose we.
I'm all right. John. We gotta get Honore and John. No, Honore and Jack. I know you're good.
You're on time, huh? Tell me you're behind.
Give me a point.
I said you're on time,
Pretty much 3 minutes.
huh? Yeah. That's it. Tell me you're behind.
I need a motion to come back into session.
Moved
Moved by Ms. Dugas, second by Mr. Beck. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Next, we have the interview of superintendent applicants. If it's okay with everyone, what we'll do is we'll start with the newest member of the board and we'll go backwards from there.
As far as questions, you mean?
Yeah, to ask questions and then Mr. Beck and then I will go last.
Sounds
That's
good.
okay.
We're playing.
Okay,
I'm
so we'll
sorry.
start
So we're not
with
going back.
Mr. John Bartholomew. I think Ms. Sonia went to get him.
One of my phone.
You ask yours first.
That's what you're saying.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Bartholomew. You have a 5-minute opening statement before we begin questioning. Welcome to Assumption Parish.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to get started. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
I'm John Bartholomew, candidate for Assumption Parish Superintendent. I greet you this evening with 21 years of experience in various roles within the educational sector. I've served as a teacher, a coach, a school bus driver, supervisor shipping and receiving, a disciplinarian, school principal, and district supervisor. As a leader, one of the greatest tasks I've ever encountered was blending 4 schools from 3 different communities to 1 school. With a keen focus on removing the barrier that divided us and building traditions that united us, we were able to improve the school and establish a community and build good relationships. We not only provided a school for the children from 4 different schools, we were able to unite the community. And we also made a community a family, and the school was a school of the community, the students, and all the stakeholders. With academics as our central focus, the school was able to increase the school performance letter grade from a D to a school performance letter grade of an A. This was the first time in the school history that the school had obtained the highest state ranking in its history. Building upon these successes, I was able to take these leadership experiences to the Iberville Parish School District to serve as the supervisor of secondary schools and academies. Also, I supervised 6 schools, 6 principals, 2 instructional coaches, and a district athletic director. I'm the grandson of 2 World War II veterans. I'm a Christian. My dad, a 42-year retired school principal. My mom is a 29-year retired social studies teacher. My first cousin, love dearly, he's the superintendent of the Archdiocese. My wife, who's here today with me, she is the data and accountability specialist for the Platinum Parish School District. We have 2 boys, but they're men now, and 2 beautiful grandchildren, Paxton and Peyton. These experiences, my educational journey, my family background, and the completion of the Superintendent's Academy program has prepared me for the role I seek your consideration for tonight, the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll start with the first question. We'll go to Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, President, Madam. Good afternoon. My name is Jesse Robinson, Ward 5. The question that I have, what are the greatest strengths that you would bring to our district that would enhance our teaching and learning for all the students of this district?
As far as my strengths are concerned, I believe that there's no one leadership style that can be effective. Because if you want to be an effective leader, in my opinion, you have to be a situational leader, because situations come up. So it can't just be transactional. We can't just be transformational. We have to be situational. Some of the leadership experiences that I've displayed, I'm able to bring the community together. I've proven that at one of the schools that I was a principal of. Also, my knowledge as far as curriculum and instruction is concerned. I'm responsible for in the Iberville Parish School District for the implementation of Tier 1 curriculum. With those strengths, I think I can improve the school system of Assumption Parish.
Thank you.
Next, Rick.
So, Bartholomew, besides the COVID, what do you think is the most challenging thing that we face as a public school system?
Well, maybe directly related, but we definitely have to, I'm concerned about our teachers. I'm concerned about the safety of our schools at this moment. I'm concerned about the connectivity as it relates to making sure that all of our students have access to internet if they're not in school. There are several things that we can do to support that, but there are also challenges there. In addition to that, we're faced with obviously taxes. Right now, you know, our businesses are struggling. We have a lot of businesses that are not open right now. A lot of businesses open on a limited basis. So those are some things outside of just COVID that may be directly related, indirectly related, that we can address that are challenges.
Mr. Washington.
Good evening, Mr. Bartholomew. My name is Daniel Washington. My question is, we believe that we have 4 good candidates. How can you convince this board that you are the person for this job?
As I stated earlier in my opening statement, I have the pedigree. My dad, 40-year principal. I've seen the work. My grandfather's war veterans taught me to be very disciplined, taught me the value of life. Also, my experiences. I've been school principal, highly effective turnaround school principal. I've also been a school bus driver, understand some of the things that the school bus drivers go through. I've been a coach. I've also been at the district level. I understand the relationship, and it's truly different from running your own school to working in central office. understand how to build relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Bartholomew, welcome to Assumption Parish Schools. As superintendent of Assumption Parish School, you must be empowered to plan and develop curriculum and structure tailored around culture and diversity among all students and staff. There are 3 low performing schools in our district that are in urgent need of intervention. My questions: what are you planning for increasing the school performance score while achieving equality in the classroom and increasing diversity in instructional staffing? Thank you.
I think first off, we have to evaluate where we are, our current state, and also the resources we have available to support those schools. We have to do something I call leveraging resources. When I was a principal of a low performing school, I made sure we had the best people to teach the lowest performing students. It's extremely important that we provide professional development and the training for our teachers, because with the new Tier 1 curriculum that we have in the state of Louisiana, it's very important that we train our teachers so they can do a good job, and also train our leaders so they can evaluate and support our teachers. So those are some things that I would do to support equity within the schools, but also raise the test scores and also provide students with the opportunity to be successful.
Good. Madam President, a follow-up, please, if you don't mind. You talk about leveraging resources. Could you explain a little bit more about leveraging resources, please?
So we all know that sometimes equal is not equal. So we have to truly look at our resources and say, what can we do to best serve the community in which our students go to school in? I mean, the school in which our students go to. What I've done in the past, every person in my school building had a responsibility to contribute to the school performance. For example, my core teachers, they were responsible for my SPS when it comes to my core classes. My PE coach, he supported the work that we were trying to do. He made sure that he would get certified in CPR and train the students to be certified in CPR. My band teacher, he taught the students how to compose music. So everyone had a stake in it. I met with my groundskeeper. I said I wanted my school to be an A school, so what we have to do is have A grounds. I want people to pass by our schools. I want them to look at the school. You know, perception is hard. Perception is everything. I want them to be able to say, I want my kids to go to that school. I met with my custodian. I told my head custodian, I said, we want A hallways. I met with the teachers and said, hey, low expectations are no more. We want to create high expectations for our students, and we want to create an opportunity for them to graduate for their chosen future. So those are some things that I did as it relates to improving the school system.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Mickens.
Good evening, Mr. John Bartholomew. If you are selected as the superintendent of Assumption Parish, considering the pandemic, what would be your plan for opening of schools?
Well, I think we would have to look at several things. This is not something that we could just make a decision on, but I definitely will begin to assess the situation as it relates to capabilities of having students back on campus. We would have to follow the CDC guidelines, the governor guidelines, and whatever the health industry puts out, or as sanitation is concerned, masks, face coverings, things of that nature. So those are some things that will help drive our decision. I know currently right now, I've done some research. We have the hybrid model for high school. We're going to bring some of those kids back on a hybrid schedule. I do understand that we're going to have sanitation in small classrooms every single day. Sanitation and kids be able to protect themselves as well as the teachers. Academically, I strongly encourage, if I was to bring students back today, strongly encourage our teachers to focus on the core subject and spend more time there, because if you think about it, our spoken sequence right now, we only come to school every other day or 2 days a week. We're going to be behind as it relates to our spoken sequence by the end of the year. So we definitely need to make sure we spend more time focused on the core instructions to give those kids a better opportunity to be successful on the standardized test.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Orso.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In reviewing your resume, I found it to be very impressive. You have worked hard to achieve all that you have accomplished. How would you address a situation where a rather popular principal, director, or other administrator has proven to be ineffective in their position?
Thank you. I lead from perspective of support. I know sometimes people like to just remove people for being effective, but I look at that as a reflection of me. So it is extremely important for me to provide support to whoever that individual is and not just say, hey, you're not doing your job, you're dismissed. I think the most important thing, especially when you're talking about building relationships, you have to show compassion. You have to show that you're willing to help, support, versus dismiss. I think that's extremely important. And I don't know as far as the policies are concerned here when it comes to intensive assistance plans and things of that nature, but we definitely will provide coaching cycle, making sure that this particular administrator is supported and using his or her strengths to the best of their ability before the discipline. I honestly, at the close of the day, if the work is not being done and we've tried everything that we possibly do, then obviously we have to have a hard conversation.
All right. Ms. Dugas.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In what way would you work collaboratively with the community to accomplish what is best for the children of Assumption Parish?
I think community is extremely important. I could not be successful without the community. I think there's some things that we definitely have to do. We have to open our doors. We have to have an open door policy for our community to be able to see what we're doing in the schools. We have to make sure that they are involved in different programs within the school system. We have to give them opportunity to hear their voice. We have to, have stakeholder engagement meetings. We have to have community meetings. We have to have activities within the community from the school standpoint to say, hey, even though this is a school event, we want our community to be a part of it. One of the best things I did as a school principal to invite and build relationships, we had our parents cook for our teachers every year. Our parents also, they were invited to our pep rallies because I wanted more people in the community to be able to spread the good news of what we're doing in our school system. And that way we have more allies and more people speaking the good versus people questioning what are we doing. Those are some things that I would do to increase stakeholder engagement. Thank you.
Mr. Beck.
Good evening. Welcome. And
Thank you, sir.
I'm Vice President of the board.
Yes, sir.
My question, while the superintendent is expected to be the educational leader of the district, there are other important areas of knowledge and leadership that a superintendent must demonstrate to provide a check and balance in budget, finance, insurance, legal, construction, maintenance, and personnel. What experience and background do you have in these areas, and how can you assure the board you could handle these additional responsibilities effectively?
Thank you, sir. Currently, right now, I'm supervising 6 schools. I work with my principals on budgeting, on personnel matters, on community engagement matters. We talk about spending as it relates to Title I fund, the allocation of resources, and also managing our personnel. Also, I'm in charge of curriculum implementation for the district. So I have my own curriculum budget where actually we have expenditures to support the schools and also work with our local maintenance departments as well as our federal programs to ensure that the funding is available for our schools. Obviously, it all boils down to making sure that we follow policy. The board sets policy, and we want to make sure that once the budget is approved, we can focus and spend the money accordingly. We do not want to go back to the board as much as we would like, but sometimes we need to make sure that we work within the budget that is provided to us. So to ensure that policy is followed, to make sure that we follow the restraints of the budget, and making sure that we allocate the resources to the schools as much as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My question, according to the CDC, recent estimates in the United States show that about 1 in 6, or about 17% of children aged 3 through 17 years have one or more developmental disabilities. and make up a growing portion of the student body. Many of these students are quite capable, but also tend to learn differently than their peers, requiring more staff and resources in order to implement programs. Oftentimes, only the minimum requirements in terms of service are provided. How would you manage ensuring that these students are identified and receive the services they need on an individual level in order to reach their full potential in our parish? Can you offer any new ideas, methods, or programs that are outside of the traditional way special education services have been provided?
Thank you, Madam President. We have to start with good screenings. We have to identify strengths and weaknesses for our students. And also start with good curriculum early on, elementary programs, primary programs for students, so we can teach them how to read and write at an early age. Because right now there's a lot of statistics, and a lot of statistics you speak of is actually coming from early ages, and they can make predictions of whether or not students will be successful later on. Those are things that we definitely have to address, making sure programs are centered around making sure students are reading properly, students are reading fluently, and also students are decoding words properly. As it relates to support, we have to make sure that we assessing the student, but providing those instructional resources that our students need in order to be successful. Sometimes I know we view it as an additional support or a scaffold, but our students sometimes need those scaffolds in order to be successful. It's extremely important that we make sure that we provide the right scaffolds for the students so they can engage in proper tech, so they can be successful.
All right, that was the last question for this round, unless anyone has a follow-up question.
I do. What do you know about Assumption Parish School District?
I know currently right now, well, the test scores, we don't have any test scores, but B district, I know that we improved over the last year, previous years. We have a phenomenal high school. We have some schools within the district that are doing very, very well. I know we have Air Park Middle School, which is very unique. It's one of the schools that have pre-K all the way to 8th grade. We have a primary school, as my friends tell me, Bayou Lewis or Bayou Lewis. And also we have additional primary and middle schools with Napoleonville, we have Labbyville, we have Valley. I know our schools are community schools. I know that we are very connected, our schools are very connected to the community. I come from, that's why it's very hard to combine 4 schools and lead that charge from 3 different communities. So I understand extremely important. I know sugarcane is our #1 product here. And I know the school system, anything like where I come from, we are the largest employer of the community. So those are some things that I do know about Assumption Parish, and really just good people, love backyard cooking and food and things of that nature. So that I'll be right at home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank everyone. Thank you for having me.
Madam President, do we offer up a 5 minutes?
We have
closing
you have a 3-minute closing if you would like.
I understand that this is one of the toughest decisions you have to make as a board. I understand that. I do not take that lightly. I'm committed to serve. I have the skill set to do so. And I'm gonna close with this. A better today, a better tomorrow starts with us today. We're not perfect, but day by day, we get better and better. Thank you for your time. That's my closing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a recess or we're good? We're good?
Let's do 2.
Is everybody good with getting the next candidate? Okay, we'll take it.
Okay, I'm good. Let's have to stretch these limbs.
This is the most I've sat in a week.
Should he sit in?
Mhm.
Okay, take a second on the feast day.
It would,
He can stay or do we have to
I
leave?
don't know, does he go back in the
I think
back?
it's got to go.
We have to go back
Does he go back in the back?
because he may not be.
He has to leave.
Hmm?
He has to leave. He can't stay.
Yes. First, please, speak 30 minutes.
No.
You have to leave.
At least on the table, because they are going to be speaking without masks.
Do we have some sanitizer?
Can't go back with him.
I think that was the rule.
No, so,
Have to leave.
yeah, it's hard. Does he stay?
And I hate to make it look like somebody has germs, but
I know, but that's the life we live.
that is the life that we live in.
Oh, the candidate.
Andrea, this was a leader.
Stay in.
He's sitting in the, he's sitting in the, I
Yeah, he
think
makes
that's what
the
the leader.
candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what the
I'll
leader.
tell him that.
They're not supposed to have another interview.
No, I would say if he's, as long as he's still a candidate, you have to step down.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'm gonna tell.
That's what I thought.
You might ask about.
It's okay.
Melissa.
Maybe we change the chairs.
Disinfectant.
Yes.
They want disinfectant. They want disinfectant. They're not supposed to stay. Oh, yeah, they're not supposed to stay. They're looking for disinfectant, but I'm saying, the interview is supposed to. And what about the interview? It was leaving. The people that interviewed. Okay. But what about if they're
Adjustment.
yeah, other people do it? John, no soap and water?
I got sanitizer.
Yeah, I got sanitizer. I got some for.
I don't get soap in my towel out the.
Thank you.
How you doing tonight?
Shannon, don't sit at the table, just sit. We gotta sanitize the table. Shannon, we have to sanitize the table.
What you say?
We need to sanitize the table.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I Clorox too.
I know, it is. If I ever walked in the car, I'd get fired.
That's all they've been talking about the whole time.
Mhm.
It's tough to do.
I know they had some. We have to think differently these days. We have to think differently these
That's
days.
everything. And then adjustment. I mean, I was praying that the governor would drop a bombshell on the full product.
Sir, he didn't take the whole time. You got it?
Robinson.
There you go.
It's good.
Might be me.
Huh?
I mean, me, you gotta make it in. You've been around. students.
Yes.
You got some knowledge.
Mm-hmm. That's my detail.
Yeah, I know, you know, football. You know, the experience is, I think,
Right. Could have been everywhere at different levels.
so that's
All right. Welcome, Mr. Claymore. Thank you so much for applying. You have a 5-minute opening.
Good evening.
First of all, let me start off by thanking you for allowing me to interview tonight. It's actually a great pleasure. My name is Shannon Clemon. I've been in education for nearly 23 years, 15 years inside of Assumption Parish School Board. My wife's name is Paula. She's an educator inside of LaCruz Parish. We have 4 children that are all products of public education. We are truly invested inside of our profession. I'm extremely proud of my educational track record. I was a classroom teacher for 9 years, an assistant principal for 6, a principal for 3, and now a director for 5 years. Over the past 5 years as a director, I've been assigned the departments of human resource, insurance, retirement, child nutrition, technology, and maintenance, while working alongside our business department and our curriculum team. I believe in leadership that involves passion, hard work, strong conversations, consistency, and complete transparency. Employees want to follow someone as genuine. We, as a district, must not just talk the talk, but walk the walk alongside our employees. I will take this work ethic with me into being your next superintendent. This is truly a time of uncharted waters. Even though there's a time of uncertainty inside of public education and in society, I'm extremely proud of the effort and collaboration effort we've done and focus in this district that we moved toward in the past couple of months with our curriculum resource alignment and our one-to-one district initiative. Education is evolving and we must be on the forefront of that change. This advancement has been a total team effort. No one party has done it by themselves. From the central office staff down to our school administration, to also some of our classroom teachers that have come in over the last couple of months. I look forward to continuing this vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Claymore. We'll start with the first question with Mr. Jesse.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Shannon. My question, what are the greatest strengths that you would bring to our district that we would enhance the teaching and learning for all students?
Thank you, Mr. Jesse, for that question. One of the strengths I have is the experience that I do bring to the table. Not only just the experience I've had over the last 5 years with all of the departments I've overseen. It has not just been me. It's been a total team effort of working with our supervisors that work under me, working with our curriculum team. I do think it is important, though, that we realize that we're a very small district that works collaboratively, that we continue to work that way, and that'll be our focus. So I think what I bring to the table is that the experience over the last 5 years of being involved in every aspect of this district, and also be able to work with, and also as a team, which we've done over the last couple of months to be successful, not only for our principals' resources, but our teachers' resource, also looking at what's in the best interest of our students.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Meyer.
Putting the COVID aside, what do you think is the biggest challenge public school system faces today?
besides COVID.
Besides COVID.
One of the biggest issues that we're trying to think, we're doing or having issues with, and I'm talking about in education in general, is there's 4 components that, you know, in order to there's some components that the State Department is saying that you need for a person to graduate. So sometimes we're receiving kids in early childhood that are not ready to become kindergartners. Now, we do have universal pre-K here, Mr. Myers. I do think we do a good job of preparing our kids, but that is one of the biggest challenges, I think, in the state of Louisiana is early childhood, is trying to get kids ready through Head Start pre-K, so when they finish kindergarten, they're actually kindergarten ready. Because the problem that you face throughout not just Assumption Parish, but through the state of Louisiana is that they come not prepared enough and do not have the resources or the background. So what it causes is a gap in the very beginning, and you're having to play catch up as the kids move forward inside of the from first grade, second grade, to third grade, all the way up. So if we can close that gap up in the very early childhood grades, I think that would actually benefit Assumption Parish School Board greatly. And that is one of the focal points, I think, that is not only in our 10 goals, which, you know, I think is one aspect that we're gonna keep, but the one in our early childhood is every kid ready once we finish kindergarten to move into first grade. It's gonna be a tracking that we're gonna have to do on every kid. Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
All right, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, Mr. Claymore. We believe we got 4 good candidates. How can you convince this board that you are the first for this position?
Thank you, Mr. Washington. As I said prior to, you know, in my introduction, and you know, I've been here for 15 years. I believe I have a very good relationship with the board. I'm always on call for y'all, always on call for the principals and staff. Over the last 5 years, I really have been entrenched inside, not just me, but with my team in every aspect that we come. So whether it's with our CFO, who I work closely with, whether it's with the curriculum team, our principals, you know, I think that is one of the things that kind of divides me from everyone else, is that over the length of the 5 years, I've spent the time to learn every kind of aspect that we have inside of our school system. And, you know, as I've kind of gone from a assistant principal to director, I really feel that every position I've left it better than I've got it. So, and I think that's important for, you know, the thing. You know, communication has always been there between myself and the staff. But again, do oversee multiple departments, but that overseeing is just not because of me. I have a fantastic support staff that's under me that I allow to, I give ownership to. I don't micromanage them. We set goals and tasks, and I go back and monitor those tasks. They come and report to me. If they want to adjust it, they explain to me why they want to adjust it as supervisors, and then we make those adjustments necessary. And as superintendent, I plan on keeping that same type of philosophy and giving people power, ownership to their positions in order to make those adjustments, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Claymore. As president of Assumption Parish School, you must be empowered to plan and develop curriculum and instruction tailored around culture and diversity among all students and staff. There are 3 low performance schools in our district that are in urgent need of intervention. My question: what are your plans for increasing school performance score while achieving equality in the classrooms and increasing diversity in instructional staffing? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. I was waiting for that question. Because I think it's a major concern that we have not, it's not that we haven't tried to tackle it. We just have never actually been able to figure out why in those schools we're having those issues. So let me address, there's multiple levels to your question. First question, how are we going to address the equality issue? Well, the past couple of meetings we've seen, we already have Caring Schools program already built into that I plan on continuing, that is lowering our suspension rates, not only with just our African American students or diverse students, but all our students. And I think that's key to us. That's the key to kids in school. That's important. Okay. Two, we also created a framework just through what Ms. Sharon Stibe and her committee presented the other day. That I think is going to be a vital part to teaching people not only resources, how to react, but to judge a person by their heart and character. And I think that's going to be important. The one thing I would like to see, which kind of didn't come out in the meeting, is the principals will have a plan. I think it's important that they have autonomy to run their own programs. Ours was just a framework. I would like that plan to present it back to the district of what they're going to do. So we can just oversee it, monitor it, see what's going on. And if we need any help or more resources, we can do those. The third thing we are adding to help out with that, some social workers. We are adding 2 more into this district. I do think that it's going to be a need, not only with the covert, but also everything on TV, Mr. Lewis. Kids are coming back to see the violence and the hatred. And I think that we need to put more help with, social, emotional aspect of it. When we ripped back 2 years ago, we really kind of leaned that section down, but I think we almost leaned it down too much. So by increasing it again, I think that'll help everybody out. To answer your second part of your question, how are we going to address the concerns of those performing schools? I think it's going to be a team effort, Mr. Lewis. Not just the central office staff, but I'm talking about the school board and the superintendent. It's all going to have to be on board to provide the resources that they need. Okay, I would like to see in each of those schools to do some type of analysis where we take a group of people in different areas, as PAC staff, other principals, go in there, see what we need to do, look at the data, make sure everything is data driven. And that's going to be the key. Okay, are we missing something that's data driven that every kid, why are we performing that way? Everybody has the same kind of staff. What is going on? Is it just because of the kid? We have teachers that are not certified, or they certified, how to solve those problems. But I think it's going to be a collective effort in order to get that done. And I plan on getting that done with, hopefully, that'll be one of the first things I want to address. Again, we got to get off the ground this year. In the next couple of months, it's going to be a difficult process just because of a lot of, I guess I would call it frightened children, frightened adults, frightened parents coming into school settings. I think we need to get that transition moving first. But right after we get that moving, that'll be the next thing I would like to address.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, Ms. Mickens.
Good evening, Mr. Claymore. If you are selected as superintendent of Assumption Parish, considering the pandemic, what would be your plan for the opening up the schools?
The district has already created a ABC. It seems that every time we create an ABC plan, the governor comes out, or the state comes out, or the PBC comes out, we got to create an ABC of the ABC. So it's a moving target. But I think one of the keys is, one of the sheets I gave you was an adjustment of the 90-day plan. All right. And on this adjustment inside the 90-day plan is, a normal introduction would come in, try to meet stakeholders, community leaders, do things. I think communication for the first 60 to 90 days is going to be essential across all aspects, not just with the school board, between the school board and myself, but I think also with communities. So what I've attached to you and given to you is 4 different areas. I've listed the school board. There's 4 different areas I would like to address, which is basically dialogue that goes back and forth from me to you. Make sure that you are well informed of the changes and the necessary things that go on. Community related, I think what's going to be important is a couple things. Continuing to frequently ask questions section on we're about to put on there is ask questions when a parent can go find an answer so we can help that dialogue. Okay. What I also would like to see is we would create a help desk, because with a virtual program and an additional program and a hybrid program, we're going to have a help desk. So hopefully we can have a help desk or create an email system where the email system within a 24-hour period, that parent can do one of 2 things. So press the call back, or we can actually respond back to the email. One of those 2 things. Also, at that point in time, I do think we need to create some type of communication outside with the community, whether it's our religious leaders, our police jury, have some type of meeting. Probably will have to be in Zoom in today's format. Explain what we're doing to get that out there. All right. I think with our employees, we never can forget them, guys, because I think they're just as nervous as students and parents coming back. I think it's important to establish what we expect their goals to be and what we expect them to do. And I think that's important. I have an incoming of calls every day about concerned employees, and I'm trying to address them as best I can according to the policies that you have set. We're trying to do that. We need to host multiple meetings. I'm probably gonna have to go out through the parish, see all 5 communities and show my face and maybe do face-to-face kind of conversation with these employees. I think it's also gonna be important that once we get this school set started, that we set some kind of, or create some type of teacher focus group. Not just, we always meet with principals and the district staff all the time. I think it's gonna be important that we maybe grab 1 or 2 teachers from each of the schools, all the 9 schools, and maybe, once a week, bi-monthly, come together, put them on a Zoom meeting, say, hey, what's the challenges you're facing? How can we help? What resources do you need? What are we lacking at? Because there's going to be a point in time that we will drop the ball. This is uncharted waters in public education. So, we don't know what we're going to face until kids start coming on campus. So once that happens, we're going to start addressing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Ms. Orso.
Good evening. In reviewing your resume, excuse me, I found it very impressive. You have worked hard to achieve all you have accomplished. How would you address a situation where a rather popular principal, a director, or other administrator has proven to be ineffective in their position?
First of all, thank you for that compliment. I really do appreciate it. I guess part of my leadership style has to do with strong conversations, and that doesn't mean mean conversations. Sometimes you have to have conversations about improvement. We always pride ourselves in Assumption Parish for growing our own. We really do. And I think that's just something we should do. We're so small. But with that, of growing our own, you have to have conversations about, the first question we got to ask ourselves is, why is that person not performing up to their level that they should be performing to? If that's the case, then we need to provide those resources. It takes more work to actually remove either a principal or director that's not performing than to provide your assistance. You spend more time trying to remove someone when you can spend that time trying to help someone to make them a better, not just person, but a better person for the district. I think everybody comes in this profession for the right reasons. I think everybody comes in this profession because they love children. So I think that's one of the important things is we have to always communicate. One of the things I would like to see though is, one of the things is every year we need to meet with principals and make sure that we have solid, not just school improvement plans, but what are their goals for their own self. Every year when it's all said and done, when I reevaluate my department, I look at myself, what did I do wrong? what I got to tweak for next year. I just think that sometimes, that communication happens. It's a strong conversation to have with a principal or director is, hey, where do you think your deficiencies are? But the question, if they say X, Y, and Z, and your question, and your next question needs to be, how can I help you? You're welcome.
Ms. Duga.
Good evening, Chair. In what way will you work collaboratively with the community to accomplish what is best for the children of Assumption Parish?
Well, one of the things that I can tell you, and that's an excellent question. I think the community wants to see a couple of things, okay? Especially in today. They're going to want to see someone that actually they have a voice. So I think one of the important things that we do, because I think the community sees y'all as a voice yourself. So I think it's going to be important that your relationship with mine is completely kind of one voice. Because the worst thing that can happen is things start going on inside of a school system or you have positive things going on. They're asking you, hey, what about this? And you don't have an answer for them. So first thing we do is make sure that our relationship between the school board, superintendent, and even the staff, central office is solid because y'all well informed. But I do think the community, what they want to see is they want to see someone that is in their community, assisting their children with the resources they need. That's what they want to see. And we no longer can have this cookie cutter type of mentality in that. Because we have 9 schools and all 9 schools are different. I've been to all 9, they're all different, they're all good schools, but they all need different resources. So I think parents want to see someone who is genuine, that is working with the principals, assisting with the resources so they can help their children. So again, like I alluded back into that plan, I do have a communication section where I think it's important for the next 90 to, or maybe even the whole 2020, 21 year, that we keep this communication between ourselves and parents with concerns ongoing.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Beck.
Welcome, Shannon. Thank you for your application. Question. While the superintendent is expected to be the educational leader of the district, there are other important areas of knowledge and leadership that the superintendent must demonstrate effectively to provide a check and balance, budget, finance, insurance, legal, construction, maintenance, and personnel. With your experience, which you know about our system, how can you assure this board that you can handle these additional responsibilities effectively?
That's an excellent question, Mr. Beck. Let me start off by saying I've been in this district again for 15 years. I've seen the years when it was really good and we gave teachers raises. And when I took over 5 years ago as HR director, things got really lean. And I had to do was probably the worst thing of my entire career was go sit in front of people and tell them they no longer had a position or they had to do something else. I know the CFO, Randall, myself, directors that sit behind me along with the principals take that really serious. We have made sure that we have a checks and balance on every aspect of spending right now. Our balance at one point in time got really low. I think now we're probably spending somewhere around $36 million in our general fund, $5 to $6 million inside of our grants and other funding sources, that revenues that are coming in. But the one thing we always do is we ask the question. We no longer just flip it over and say, hey, we're going to follow last year's plan. We look at now every resource and every department, we have questions. What are we using? Why are we using it? How are we using it? And is it necessary and data driven? Those are the questions we ask ourselves. And I know for a fact, Ms. Anya Randall does that all the time when we're doing that. So I think it's important that we continue to ask those questions. Now, as we stated in the last couple of meetings, used to be pockets of money. I think now we've got to understand, we've changed the philosophy that is now one pot of money everybody has to control it, but the communication's been a little bit different where everybody knows, hey, look, maybe if we do this way, we get more bang for our buck and resources. So I think we continue to use that check and balances, because I think it is working, but I do think we need to continue to keep on asking ourselves those questions. If we cannot answer questions, the answer is I don't know any one of them, and then we no longer need that program or that resource, and then you need to divert it into a different resource that helps.
All right. Mr. Claymore.
Ma'am.
According to the CDC, recent estimates in the United States show that about 1/6, or about 17% of children ages 3 through 17 have one or more developmental disabilities and make up a growing portion of the student body. Many of these students are quite capable, but also tend to learn differently than their peers, requiring more staff and resources in order to implement programs. Oftentimes, only the minimum requirements in terms of services are provided. How would you manage ensuring that these students are identified and receive the services they need on an individual level in order to reach their full potential in our parish? Also, can you offer any new ideas, methods, or programs that are outside of the traditional way special education services have been provided?
Thank you for that question. Again, there are 5 components that I really think that we need to do besides try to actually assist in that. Again, we have an early start program, early child program. There are 5 components that I think that we need to manage between the time they start and the time they're in. First one is that the major point is kindergarten. We need to make sure that all children in kindergarten are kindergarten ready. The other component is 3rd grade. We need to make sure when a child leaves 3rd grade that we need to make sure that they're proficient and ready for math and reading. Once they get up to 8th grade, same thing with math, ELA. The transition into 9th grade is a critical point. We need to make sure enough kids in their quality units turn into 10th graders, because we know that affects our graduation rate. And at the end, we need to make sure that kids, when they graduate, are socially, emotionally ready to be career college. Now, to answer your question about what can we do to address those concerns PAC as far as special needs, we've already did over the summer out with all the principals and did some alignment of curriculum, alignment resources, where we made sure across the district we asked the same questions I just mentioned a while back. What we're using it, how we're using it, why we're using it, and what are we trying to target? Okay. That information needs to be data-driven and tracking every kid. So we only have 3,000 students. So if we start a tracking system on 3,000 students, we can, throughout the year, start a tracking system where we're going to do it. As most of you know, when the kids come back, we are going to do a diagnostic kind of test where kids' abilities that they're at, because we have not been back in school since March. The other issue is that we're going to have benchmarks throughout that period. So what principals and teachers are going to have to do is start addressing those deficiencies by using inside the curriculum and actually tweaking whether, their instruction is different, or do we need to put them on this program that's with this? The kids have phonics issues. Well, we need to tweak that, and then all of a sudden we fix that. Let's move it to here. Now, as far as PC, I think we're going to have to start doing something a little different all in general, especially with the COVID, because one of the concerns we have is we do have children that are going home because they are medically fragile, have health concerns. So we're going to have to provide probably some extra resources and spend more money than we anticipated because of this, because we may have to spend some extra time, maybe doing some type of, like a speech kit, whatever these resources. We may have to build into the day time where we that teacher can communicate either during the hours or after hours. What I really would like to see is a second step program or second start school program in some of these areas, especially in our elementary programs. Now, it's a little difficult with COVID right now, but once COVID's over, create a second start That is one of the things I would really like to see get started, where it addresses two concerns after school. One, assists kids that need home issues because the curriculum sometimes is a little complicated. Two, but also provide other interventions after school in a second hour, whether it's an hour and a half to 2 hours after school. The third thing it could do is actually address your higher kids in your enrichment program. You know, one of the things over the next couple of years that we need to start talking about is actually developing a true enrichment program, not only for our lower kids, but for our higher kids. One of the things that we need to see is, you know, can we create some kind of math or science STEM program or academy somewhere or some type of it? So we could do that in the Second Start program to begin with. So one of the ideas we have going into it now, we're starting immediately, no, it has to take a collaborative effort to get this done. But I would think that after it's all said and done, once school ends, that parents would be more than willing for us to assist kids and pay people to help out the children, not only with kids with special needs, but also our higher level, so we can help out in the enrichment part through our kids from mastery to advanced.
Thank you, Mr. Claymont. You have a 3-minute closing?
Yes, ma'am, I sure do. Again, I just want to start by thanking you for allowing me to interview tonight. Assumption Parish is an extremely unique place that I've brought all my family for the last 15 years. That is why we must work together as a team to build a home school system that only focuses on excellence for all. Our children deserve nothing but our best. Over the past 15 years, I've been involved in every aspect of the district and gained the experience necessary to be in the next superintendent. As I stated in the beginning, I was a classroom teacher, an assistant principal, a principal, and now a director. I truly believe I've been entrenched in every aspect of running this district. In my career, I've always put students first, always been honest, always been consistent as possible, and will continue to work tirelessly to build necessary communication and relationships in order to build for the school system to be successful. Even though this is a time of change, we as a district must sit down with anyone at any time who has an idea for an improvement inside of our organization. All employees are essential, from bus operators to cafeteria workers, maintenance staff, custodial staff, nurses, paraprofessionals, secretarial staff, tax staff, district staff, and administration. We must develop an atmosphere that has one focus: the students. In closing, I've been here through the good times and the bad times. I've been here through Katrina and Gustav. I watched students walk across the age of Assumption High School and become young adults. I've been through more student deaths and employee funerals I can't talk about in this parish. But my commitment and determination has not wavered. I'm going to leave you with this quote from the late John Lewis. Nothing can stop the power of a committed, determined people to make a difference in our society. And I truly believe as a district that we have the personnel in the district level and our principals and our teachers to they're committed and to they're determined to make a difference with our kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Claymont. Just on a note, there'll be no action taken tonight. At the meeting on tomorrow, we'll either select 2 finalists or select the next superintendent.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Recess. We're going to take a short 10-minute recess.
I have to stand up. Snacks or something for my bear to bring here.
Yeah, but I was.
Stand through the second half.
Sandwiches is good, I was told. Unmuted. Unmuted.
No problem.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. Welcome to Assumption Parish. Dr. Sedalis, you have a 5-minute opening statement.
Thank you for having me here to interview with you. I'd like to tell you about myself. My name is Molly Sedalis. I'm married to Joe Sedalis. We lived in Morgan City for 27 years. We now live in Toledo. We have 3 children. My daughter Hannah is a respiratory therapist, works in Morgan City and in Liberia. My son Evan graduated from LSU, and he's an engineer. He works out of the Gonzales, Prairieville, Baton Rouge area. And we have a 19-year-old Catherine who is at Nissen and majoring in economics at this time. I started in Morgan City at Shannon, MD Shannon Elementary, and then I went from there to Patterson Junior and Clark, and then I became principal. That was for 6 years, and then I became principal at Patterson Junior. Was there, and then during that time, I served on several committees, presented, and was a teacher of the year. I was there, also a principal of the year for the district for Region 3, but also middle school principal of the year in 2006. It was a surprise. It was a great honor, and I appreciate that. Learned a lot that I served in that role. I started working on my doctorate while I was at Patterson Junior, and when Franklin Junior, the principal there, retired, I asked to go there. Franklin Junior, at the time, was the lowest performing school in the district, and I asked my area for my dissertation that I really was focusing on was changing the culture of a failing school as we became transparent. So I did lots of research on that, and that's included in my dissertation. So I wanted to go to Franklin Junior because I could not figure out why students in the same district were not scoring the same, were not learning the rate, were out of struggling schools when they were being provided with institutions. So all the years I was principal at in St. Mary Parish was lessons because I got to learn from 2 different schools. 5 years ago, I was able to get an opportunity to interview for the lecture high in St. Mary Parish. So that was a tough decision because I had spent all of my time in St. Mary, but it provided me with another opportunity because I was able to experience high school and was able to experience things in different districts. So I went to districts where I had some of the struggles with assumption parents, where we struggled with sometimes, we struggled with finding student population, to a district where River Parish, while there was a budget, it didn't seem like there was a budget compared to St. Mary Parish. Like we had easy access, like one-on-one, one-to-one, and things like that. The 5 years I spent there have been wonderful. I never thought when I was a middle school principal that I would love high school. But I do. Those kids are just wonderful. St. James, Treasure High School has grade 7 through 12, so I never had to leave my middle school group when I moved to high school. I'm completely happy there. I wanted to tell you all that. I'm not neat to leave, but this is an opportunity to be able to work with a district that has some of the same goals that I have, that are aligned with the same things that I believe in, and that have some needs that I think I can offer, especially with their local.
All right, we'll start with the first question.
Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Robinson.
Dr. Alice. What are the greatest strengths that you would bring to our district that would enhance the teaching and learning for all students here?
I'm instructionally minded. Like, I live, breathe, and instruction. And it's just real important to me that kids make adequate progress, that they move to mastery, that they are learning. And strong advocate of public education. I know that you have strong teachers, you have a strong district staff, those kids can move. And I know that my instructional background is
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Meyer.
Other than COVID, what do you see as the biggest problem in public schools at this time?
COVID, none of us, so I don't think for it yet to action. None of us ever thought in a pandemic and having to make some big adjustments. I think that that's going to be the biggest thing that we're going to have to deal with. And then I also believe that, like in this particular district, that we really need to focus on that are at the lowest performing schools to get them performing as they are. We have some financial issues that I think a lot of school districts are facing. That would be an important thing. I guess we're going to have to do what's necessary to meet state standards.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. My question is, we believe we have 4 good candidates. How can you convince this board that you are the person for this job?
Wow. You're in the trenches and you're working every day. Don't stop and think about yourself and like what you do personally. I know that I've had experience in grades 4 to 12. I am the only one out of the group that is not in district office experience, but in James there's the principals on the organization chart are right there working directly with the superintendent. And so we spend a great deal of time with planning, with making decisions. We are at the table every week with the superintendent and district personnel to make those decisions. So I'm familiar with what's going on in schools because I'm physically there. I'm familiar with the struggles and with some of the challenges that are being faced in schools now. And just think my wealth of knowledge I have about instruction and about turning schools around and getting down deep in the trenches with students would be a plus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Dr. Sedalis, could you speak up a little for the audio purposes on the internet? Next, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Sedalis, thank you and welcome to Assumption Parish. As a superintendent of Assumption Parish School, you must be empowered to plan and develop curriculum and instructions tailored around culture and diversity among all students and staff. There are 3 low performing schools in our district that are in urgent need of 10 advantage. My question, what are your plans for increasing school performance scores while achieving equality of classroom and increasing diversity in instructional pathways?
I think I would need time to get into those 3 schools, for sure, so that I could meet the administration, meet the teachers, but also the students. I think that I've been in situations before where we have, as a district, purchased programs, or curriculum that, or adopted curriculum that was used district-wide. And maybe we've not taken the time to truly delve in and tackle those problems. And I think that needs to happen before the scores can go up. I think it's really important that, in order to increase diversity, that we need to hire teachers that are of minority, so that they can be working with the students, not only in those schools, but in all of our other schools, so the students have experience and have the background or the expertise of students or teachers that are coming from diverse cultures.
Okay, good. One follow-up question. You responded to one of the other questions that one of my fellow board members asked, that your strengths are in curriculum and instruction. I witnessed that. I saw that looking at your resumes. But you even mentioned so far tonight that you have no experience from a district office experience or something like that. You think for one moment that would hinder your progress as a superintendent?
I don't think. I think that I would have a lot that I would need to learn very quickly. But I have spent a great deal of time reading about this district. I read all of the newspaper articles for the past 3 years. I've read all your board minutes. I've looked at every document I can get my hands on. And one thing I know is the district personnel is top notch. And that I feel so comfortable that if I had a question for Ms. Randall about finding, that she would assist me and help to steer me in the right direction. I think that while I would have to learn quickly, I think based on what I have read about everyone here, that I would feel comfortable working here just because of everything I've read about the decisions that they've made.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ms. Smith?
Good evening. If you are selected as the superintendent of Assumption Parish, considering the pandemic, what would be your plan for the opening of the schools? Considering the pandemic, what would be your plan for the opening of the schools?
My what?
Your plan.
Oh, the plan. I think, like I have an entry plan that I handed you, but I think first and foremost, COVID plan has been put in place by this district. That is what needs to happen. They worked a great deal of time, many hours getting that together. So we would, I think, first and foremost, the main goal is to implement that in such a way that every faculty or staff member and every student is learning in a safe environment, and that they have what they need to be able to go home if we need to, like in phase 2, during the hybrid model. They have everything that they need. So when I was thinking about an entry plan, it's different, I told, because we're just coming into this district as a new superintendent, where I might have a creation of the district. I would have to hit the ground running, quite possibly before the official start date, to make sure that things are running efficiently at schools. I know there's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, a lot of things that are going to come up that may take official time, and that would be okay. I'm prepared to do that where I am. And I know that there's a lot of unknowns in the pandemic, and no matter how much this school district is prepared or where I am prepared, there's going to be a lot of other work that will come up just based on day one.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Orso?
Good evening. In reviewing your resume, I found it to be very impressive. You have worked hard to achieve all that you have accomplished. How would you address a situation where a rather popular principal, a director, or other administrator has proven to be ineffective in their position?
So they're popular, but they've proven to be ineffective. The first thing, because I would need to look at the data that proves that may indicate that that person is ineffective. I think I would need to form my own opinion. Part of my answer plan is to get to know people to ask a lot of questions. So I would need to do that before that decision was made. So it may take a little while just because I don't know someone. But it's real important to me, like even in the school where I am, the other schools I've been in, that if you're here for the right reasons, I welcome you. But if not, and we work to remedy something, and I have no idea the situation that you may be talking about, we can't rectify it, then maybe that person needs to move elsewhere. Because bottom line, everything that's done in the school system, everything that's done in my office, everything that's done from a board's point of view, everything that's done in any classroom or any administrator's office needs to be about the kids. It's not about anything else. It shouldn't. And sometimes it is, and it should not be.
Thank you.
Ms. Dugas?
Good evening. In what way will you work collaboratively with the community to accomplish what is best for the children of Assumption Parish?
So when I did all that reading, I also did Facebook watching. And there are some concerns of parents. There are some concerns of stakeholders. There are concerns that we need to address. I think sometimes people need to be heard. They just need to be listened to. I think it would take more than me to help do that. I would be open in my plan. You'll see, I want to spend time getting to know people. I want to know the district office. I want to know all the principals. I want to get to know you individually as the board. I think it's really important to be able to understand and listen to parents, community members, especially the different areas where you are. Because concerns the airport are different in Holyfield or in Bell River. And so all of that listen to so that we can come together to make a plan. And again, just like I told her, we focus on the kids.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Beck?
Good evening, Dr. Sedalis. John Beck, Vice President of the Board. My question. While the superintendent is expected to be the educational leader of the district, there are other important areas of knowledge and leadership that the superintendent must demonstrate effectively to provide a check and balance in budget, finance, insurance, legal, construction, maintenance, and personnel. What is your experience and background in these areas, and how can you assure the board you can handle these additional responsibilities effectively?
So, again, budget, insurance.
You can hit the high points of what you're familiar with. I mentioned the other things that a superintendent would be responsible for, providing a check and balance, budget, finance, insurance, legal, construction, maintenance, personnel, all the other things outside the curriculum and managing all the others.
I have experience with some of these things. With construction, every single year I've built construction somewhere. And I have worked with the superintendent on concerns. Things have not gone the way they needed to. When you get down to the final process, right now we're battling to get back in the building. We are replacing our entire system. And so we have been in the front office area, but our teachers who have not been there since March 13th, bridging to get in. So having to fill those services, work with the construction company, work with the superintendent to be able to make that happen. We've had to make some difficult decisions with personnel, and I've had to do that at all three of my schools. And I think where I am now, the superintendent, director of personnel support the things that need to happen at Usher High School, and we've had to make some difficult decisions. In terms of budget and insurance, I've dealt with insurance only as an employee, and with my children and having insurance for them and having to pay deductibles for a very sick child based on what we have. And so I would need to go that together. In terms of budget, in St. Mary's Parish, I experienced it from a teacher and principal point of view. And then here in St. Mary's Parish, I've experienced it as a principal. We were in a bind in St. Mary's Parish to where we were having teachers say papers that they could copy so that they could copy on the other side, where they were given an allotment of copying paper, where we turn off lights just because we were doing every single thing. And then coming to another district where if you needed a certain program, we thought we could give a good feel for it, the research to back it, we're able to get it. So I've seen the budget, the times when we had to rip people, when we had to make those difficult decisions, where we've not been able to do things to where we have. And I think just with my experience with that, and knowing that I have a strong financial officer to assist me with that, I think it's okay. I know that in my house, I've been married for 30 years. And in order to have, you got to prove that you got money and you need to say, and I'm the kind of person that we would not here and budget my, we would not be spending money unnecessarily. There would need to be a reason for spending the money. You never know when an emergency is going to happen. And if you don't have the money to take care of that, you're going to be in trouble. And I'm just a strong advocate of not spending unnecessarily. There needs to be proof that we need whatever.
Thank you.
Dr. Stadalis, according to the CDC, recent estimates in the United States show that about 1 in 6, or about 17% of children aged 3 through 17 years have one or more developmental disabilities and make up a growing portion of the student body. Many of these students are quite capable, but also tend to learn differently than their peers, requiring more staff and resources in order to implement programs. Oftentimes, only the minimum requirements in terms of services are provided. How would you manage ensuring that these students are identified and receive the services they need on an individual level in order to reach their full potential in our parish? Can you offer any new ideas, methods, or programs that are outside of the traditional way special education services have been provided?
At Ledger High School, I can go back to Franklin Reunion. At Ledger High School, where I'm at, we have a large population of special education students. We also have a large population of unidentified as fathers. Most kids before they get to it, so before they get to 7th grade, but we also find that there are some that not been identified yet, way behind. You have to work to identify their needs to get the evaluation after they get to high school. One of the things that we've done is to make sure that we have either a para or a special ed teacher in those core classes with those students to be able to provide that support. And that means those paras and the teachers are very busy, but I think that added helps. We also have to get impact on the credit skills, the resource time, and then we have several classes like ABA students where we have worked with Touchstone with nipples and that. For me, it's really important that students that are special ed get help that they need in order to learn. Because when they get out of school, just like students that are non-special ed, they have to be able to function. They have to be able to even make a job, possibly, and we need to provide for them. So I can come back to you with ideas for sure, but so they hold place in my heart, and I really enjoy it.
Thank you. Are there any follow-up questions before? Okay. Thank you very much. You have 3 minutes for closing.
I need to provide. So I gave you my what is the draft at the bottom, what I would that I would possibly do if I was elected. So one of the quotes that I put on here is it says revolutionary ideas do not change institutions, people change them by taking risks, preserving and by the sustained painstaking care that institution building requires. So it's going to be people in institutions really that want to do the work that's necessary. One of the ongoing goals that I think will need to happen in simultaneously to this entry plan would be that we need to ensure that all schools in Assumption Parish that open and operate following the Louisiana Department of Education start 2020 to make sure that kids are learning, that they are safe while learning, and that we are ready to move fluidly from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and have to learn that. So, 2 stages to an entry plan. I was calling this, but I decided not to because that word is a whole lot right now. So, before the official report date, September 1st, while I would still be at lunch time, I would like to work on introduction and have established relationships. I would like to connect with stakeholders, so I would like to be able to meet with students, talk with y'all one-on-one, meet with the district office personnel, get to know principals, and collect back from everyone on what we would like to see in the district and what we need to be doing, and then work to develop it. So that would be for September 1st. So phase would be, I would think September, October would be to engage, to listen, and to learn. And that would be for institutional observation, deliberately listen and learn while generating trust and facility. I would schedule time to observe, connect at the school level. One of the things that you have every day for my alarm is that I'm going to school with children. So it's real important. One of the non-negotiables for being able to move to a new role is that I still work with kids. So I think it's important that I work with schools on a weekly basis because they're the ones that are grounded. They're the ones that remind us of why we're doing what we're doing, and that's what progress of what all of us. So that's important. I would also engage in conversation with students, parents, faculty, staff, district office, board members, and community stakeholders, and I would ask a lot of questions, which I do. Stage 2, which would be November until about Christmas month. That stage, the purpose of the analyze, plan, and report with focused collaboration with the district team. I would, during that time, create a summary report on what I learned in stage 1. I would facilitate an internal review involving school level, district administration, and youth regarding the perception, procedures, finances, student performance, data, and behavioral data. I would identify district resources to benefit students things we already have and other students academically, socially, and emotionally. And I would do collective planning based on the results of stage 1. So following stage 2, so this would be in January, I would work with you and with district stakeholders to create a vision and strategic plan aligned with the state accountability system and geared toward the needs of our adopted population. And that's a draft. I'm sure by next week it will change a little bit. And then after meeting you, it could change a little bit more, just because the working copy, but it would at least give you something to start with. So I'm grateful for this time with you. Enjoy the company back all the way together. If you got any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Skedowitz. There will be, of course, no action taken tonight. On tomorrow night, the board will select 2 finalists or the new superintendent. So, thank you so much. Our next candidate is Mr. Jesse Lee Winston.
Good name.
Mr. Jesse.
Good name.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Right in front of the camera. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Winston,
Good evening.
and welcome to Assumption Parish. You have a 5-minute opening statement, and then we'll start the questions.
You're welcome. Okay. My name is Jesse Winston. I am Federal Programs Director and Instructional Technology Director of Morehouse Parish Schools. I was born and raised in Morehouse Parish Schools. I went to school, graduated, went to ULM, and mastered major rather in administration and supervision with my master's degree. Decided to go back to school and get my master's plus 30 in administration and supervision. And I was working on my PhD in curriculum and instruction. I have 23 years in education. I have 17 years in administration, 2 years at the school level as a assistant principal and interim principal, and 15 years, like I said, central office serving in the capacity of No Child Left Behind coordinator. I was social studies coordinator, science coordinator, math coordinator, ELA coordinator. I have been the homeless liaison for the district, parental involvement coordinator, the EL coordinator. I also have served as the civil rights officer for the district, ensuring that families, parents, teachers, and administrators' rights were not violated, and we were in compliance with that. I've served also as an interim superintendent while our superintendent was out on medical leave, and I serve currently as the federal programs and instructional technology director. I have served in several capacities as leadership. I am right now an executive board member for the Louisiana Association of Federal Program Administrators. I am a national board member of the National Association of Federal Program Administrators. I am a director of a Bible college as well, and I also am a youth minister in the local church. And so I have a lot of experience when it comes to administration and supervision, and I have a heart for children. I have a passion for children, and that's what I do because we are the experts. And in order for us to educate our children and give them what they need, we have to develop relationships with them, long-lasting relationships that they will remember. And in my presentation, I've given you some sample letters over the years of students who have written me, talking about their experiences that they've had with me. And so basically, we have to touch their hearts before we touch their minds, and we have to give them the best quality education that we possibly can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll start with our first question, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome, Jesse, to Assumption Parish. What are the greatest strengths that you would bring to our district that would enhance the teaching and learning for all students?
Okay. The strengths that I have is that I'm a supporter of teachers. Being the federal programs director, I work strongly with all of the supervisors in the district. And so we talk about how we can work together to give students the best possible education that they deserve. So I'm, like I said, oversee millions of dollars. And so we have to work together. We cannot work in silos. I have strength as far as leadership. I have strength in knowing budgeting. I have strength in building rapport with teachers. I know what the curriculum should be and how it should be taught, and that central office should be supports to teachers and make sure that we're there to provide them with every possible opportunity that they can succeed. And so modeling lessons, I know about professional development, making sure that not only that the teachers are given the curriculum, but that we provide professional development to them. I have strengths to know about developing surveys, analyzing data, student data, to make sure that we're focusing in on the strengths and the weaknesses, and so that we can capitalize on our strengths and that we can address the weaknesses. So basically just building relationships with teachers, knowing, what it's like to be a teacher, and working together as a unit. Because like I say, together, everyone achieves more. So in order for the district to be successful, we have to go where the rubber meets the road, and that is in the classroom with the teachers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, Ms. Meyer.
Other than COVID facing us right now, what is the biggest problem facing the public school system today?
Right now, the biggest problem facing public school systems with COVID is the public making sure that we are protecting their kids and to make sure that they come to a safe place. That's a major concern. And I think that we as educators need to make sure that we let the public know that we can provide it with the right training to make sure that their students are going to be healthy and making sure that we provide social and emotional supports, for our children, that they will want to come to school. And so, it's just fear. We're in unprecedented times, but we're just going to have to make sure that we work together to do this. This is not only just an assumption, but it's nationwide. And so that is a big issue, making sure that the students are safe and secure and that they could get a quality education virtually. Because we know that students learn more in person, having that interaction and learning from other students rather than just virtual. And so that is another challenge. You only ask for one, but one challenge will always lead to another. Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Washington.
Good evening, Mr. Winston.
Good evening.
We believe that we have 4 good candidates. How can you convince this board that you are the person for this job?
I apologize. I didn't hear your question.
I said we have 4 good candidates.
Yes, sir.
And we want you to express to us how you can convince to us that you are the person for this job.
Okay. Well, when I first became assistant principal, we were, and the principal was a new principal also. And it was a failing school. There were some challenges there. We looked at the data to see where we needed to go. We got the buy-in. I'm able to get the buy-in that it takes in order to move up, school performance. So we grew 18.7 points. I am young enough that I can learn current trends in education, and I have the stability to be here for a while. I also have an array of experiences that maybe some of the candidates have not had. I have experience with budgeting. Like I said, I have experience with the curriculum. I have been in administration at the central office for 15 years. And so I know how a school system should be run. I attend all of the board meetings. I have to make sure that I'm prepared and give reports at our monthly meetings and things like that. And I am, like I say, serving on national boards. I am also in the national superintendents and executive directors summit team. And so I have a lot of networking opportunities. I have relationships with the State Department of Education. I know how to write grants. I know how to hire personnel, the best candidate. I have experience in doing that and setting up a committee to screen the applicants, before they come to me, before I do an interview and make the final selection. So, I have what it takes. I can, learn, the things that I may not, because no one knows everything. That's the thing. No one can be an expert in everything. So you have to trust your people to do that. And so I have a track record of doing that, obviously, because I've been in administration for 15 years. And so I do know how we have to work together. I know that we're family and together everyone achieves more. They say you cannot lead, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. But if you provide a little salt and give that horse some salt, it'll make him thirsty. Right. And in turn, he will drink the water.
Like my grandpa.
You're right.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir, you go.
All right, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Weston, welcome to Assumption Parish, and that was a good analysis. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
As superintendent of Assumption Parish Schools, you must be empowered to plan and develop curriculum and instruction tailored around culture and diversity among all students and staff. There are 3 low-performing schools in our district that are in urgent need of intervention. My question: what are your plans for increasing school performance while achieving equality in the classrooms and increasing diversity and instructional staffing?
Okay. Yes, I looked and you do have 3 low performing schools in the district. And the first thing that we will have to do is conduct a needs assessment to actually see what's going on and get an external audit about how the children feel. You probably need to do student surveys, you need teacher surveys, administrative surveys, so you can see actually what is going on and get a third set of eyes, an external person to go in, and we will analyze that data, which would be the qualitative data. Then we will look at the quantitative data, which would be the test scores and things like that, because we have to analyze those so that we can see where our strengths and our weaknesses are. So once we formulate that, we will then identify research-based strategy to find out what is the best strategy for that school. And then we will provide the professional development. We will also make sure that we increase parental involvement in those schools because research says that if parents are involved in the education, then the chances of that school succeeding is going to be greater because we cannot have parents not on our team, on our side. Although we spend most of our time with the children in the daytime, we still have to send them home to their parents, okay? So then building those relationships. When it comes to diversity, making sure that our teachers have the training that know about the culture because, you know, some cultures, African American particularly, we may roll our eyes and stomp our feet and things like that. But that's just the culture of how things are. They're not going to do anything to you. But then most times, some people are afraid of that. So what we need to do is have training in that area so that the teachers will feel comfortable with the children, and then also the children will feel comfortable with the teachers. Because it is very difficult for me to teach someone that I don't know anything about. I have a love for the homeless population because when I was a homeless liaison, I was able to see and go into those homes and visit. And some things you take for granted, like students eating on the floor because they don't have a dining room table and things like that. So sometimes it's hard to relate. So we have to have those relationships there, and we have to make sure that we provide them with the opportunities that they can learn. Principals, we will look at them as well and make sure they have the professional development. We can partner them with other districts that may be in our district who are higher performing than they are and see what's going on and provide mentors to teachers and provide mentors to administrators so that they can actually see and give them some time to go and visit other principals and other schools so that they can be able to bring that information back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, Ms. Nickens.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If you're selected as the superintendent of Assumption Parish, considering the pandemic, what would be your plan for the opening of the schools this year?
My plan for the opening of this school this year would be to actually look at, analyze the data that has been done. Because as an outsider coming in, I need to see what the district has done. I need to meet with the cabinet to see what has already been in place. Because a plan should already almost be nearing to being approved because the 28th, September 28th is today. But I will get with the cabinet and we will talk about what were the surveys like. Look at the parent surveys. Let me see the employee surveys. And then we will analyze that data and then also make sure that we have everything in place, looking at the Strong Start grant, the CARES Act, seeing where the money is flowing to make sure that we're doing the best bang for the bucks there and adequately preparing our students to come back and also our teachers as well. And then also making sure that we follow the CDC guidelines and the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. And being also attentive and listening to those Louisiana Department of Education meetings and webinars, because every week they roll out what the school districts need to do. And that will determine whether we're in phase 1, we're going to do virtual, phase 2, phase 3, and vice versa, and so on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Ms. Urso?
Good evening. In reviewing your resume, I found it to be very impressive.
Yes, ma'am.
You have worked hard to achieve all that you have accomplished.
Yes, ma'am.
How would you address a situation where a rather popular principal, a director, or other administrator has proven to be ineffective in their position?
Okay, the first thing that I would do is conduct informal and formal observations of those individuals to make sure that they understand what's expected of them. Simply and go over their job description and let them know this is what we're going to be doing. And this is what I do every year, on a day-to-day basis, is to remind my staff in those departments that I serve to make sure they understand that we're here for children. And so therefore, we have a job that's incumbent upon us, and God is holding us accountable for the things that we do. So we will review the job description, because I personally don't know if they're ineffective or not, because they have not per se worked for me. So I like to give everyone an opportunity to see, because some people will work for some supervisors and they may not work, for others, because it's what the expectations are. So what you have to do is sit down with them, look at the job description, meet with them, also get them to sign off on the job descriptions. Also ask them, what supports can I offer to you? What do you need in order for to be successful in your position? Okay. And so then we will conduct those informal and formal observations. If it is found that a supervisor or principal or whoever is not performing to the best of their ability, then I will place them on what's called an intensive assistance plan. And that intensive assistance plan will outline the goals and the objectives of what we need to be improved upon. I will have the timeline there for them, letting them know you have until this XYZ time to get this complete. At that time, it may also have some professional development opportunities they need to look at. It may be that they have to do some research based articles, and they have to provide me a summary of that and what they've learned. And so once we do that, that'll be the first phase. I will evaluate and also observe this person in that position. And then if they have not met the satisfaction that is needed to get out of intensive assistance 1, then I will place them into intensive assistance number 2. And then I will provide more support to that individual. I will provide more support to them, what's expected of them. Maybe they didn't get it the first time, so we'll put them into the second time. Then after that, they have one last time, which is intensive assistance number 3. And then if they cannot perform, then unfortunately, we will have to break our ties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Dugas?
Good evening.
Good evening.
In what way will you work collaboratively with the community to accomplish what is best for the children of Assumption Parish?
What I would do, I would be visible as a superintendent should be. The first thing, I have to move in so they can get to know me. I will be attending the church services. I will be attending the games. I will be hosting with the social distancing community meetings in certain districts to let them know. And tonight I have some copies just of the 180-day plan, and I'll leave that for them. And I would just go over those things with them to let them know, what my goals are, which is to provide equity and equal access for all students. And then what do they want or require from me, or what are some things that they see that they want to be, changed, and actually listening to them and having an open ear, an open heart, and an open mind. So that I can have some direction as to force what does the community want. Because truly the community is what drives the school, and then the board, and then the superintendent is just the liaison that works between the community and the school system to try to get things done. But have to build those relationships with the parents and the community. I would attend the civic groups to make sure I do that. I would also visit the Chamber of Commerce to make sure I can talk with businesses because I like to incentivize our students, and that's what we did when we got the scores up from an F to a low C. The first year we were there is because we have to offer incentives to our children, especially students of poverty. And so I need to work with the Chamber of Commerce so that we can get those donations and things that we can help improve academic success. I will visit the barber shops and try to get barbershop books for students that, I know right now you have to do it by appointment only, but, where they can have books and libraries in there so students can read books and make sure that they're able to understand it and that reading is important. I also will have a literacy challenge, superintendent, where the student that read the most books, will get prizes in each division in each school, and then we'll have an overall person. Breakfast of champions, for students that, do well. We had a breakfast where we honored all of the students for their grades. And so we do things like that. And then I personally believe in education, so I would make a donation of $1,000 each year for a student that's graduating from Assumption Parish to continue their education as part of my community.
All right, next, Mr. Beck.
Good evening, Mr. Winston. Thank you for joining us tonight.
All righty.
My question. The superintendent is expected to be the educational leader of the district. There are other important areas of knowledge and leadership that a superintendent must demonstrate effectively to provide a check and balance in budget, finance, insurance, legal, construction, maintenance, and personnel. What is your experience and background in these areas? And how can you assure the board that you can handle these additional responsibilities beyond the curriculum?
Okay. My experience is I'm federal programs director. So budgets, that's my thing. I know that 85% of a budget is based on personnel. So if we have a problem with our budget, then we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to look at it and make sure that we're spending in the best interest of the children to get the most bang for the buck. Okay. That's the plus when it comes to budgets. We have to make sure that the AFR is done every year, September the 15th. We don't want a state budget and a finding. So I know that when it comes to budget. We have to have an external audit. A company has to come in. If you have over $500,000 in certain, pots, you have to get an external audit. And every month we will provide with you at the finance committee what the budget, the month. The business manager will be there to make sure. We also, or I will, make sure that when it comes to maintenance, that the schools are clean and get with the maintenance supervisor. Like we meet once a week. I will have a meeting with the cabinet. What is going on in the departments? What is the status of jobs that need to be done with the curriculum? I have experience with that because with the federal funds, it flows into every department. So I've worked with the transportation department, making sure that we get the best bang for our bucks as for the routes. We don't want buses going back and forth and they've already been there. They can pick up someone. So we have a program in place called VersaTran that will draw those routes for you. I've worked and experienced with transportation is because in the evenings we have after school tutoring. So I have to hire bus drivers for after school tutoring and all of that. When it comes to maintenance, we have in place where principals will submit those needs that need to be done, okay? And he has to have a budget to know what to spend. So therefore the business manager will have to let us know what's in the budget for maintenance and all of that and making sure that that's done. There are times that we need bids because you just can't go and purchase things. So you have to have the bidding process and make sure that we solicit bids for certain jobs. unless we can declare it as an emergency. And therefore, we won't have to do that, but the board will have to do that when it comes to maintenance and making sure that our schools are clean. That falls under the maintenance department, making sure that the repairs are done and making sure things are safe. As superintendent, I would have a checklist, safety checklist, going around to the schools, checking for those areas to make sure that the buildings are clean and secure.
Okay. Just a follow-up. What do you know about Assumption Parish Community and School District?
What I know is that I heard and I know that the family and that people work together, and that's why I would like to be a part of it. Because being a family person, you know, there's a lot in numbers. You know, it's easy to break a stick, one stick, but if you put everybody together, it's hard to break. I heard that is a tight bond, that every department here work together. By me being a executive board member of a state and a national organization, you hear things and you see things. And so I was able to observe some of the supervisors here at work in Assumption Parish at various meetings, and I saw how they stick together. They go, and when it's time to sit, they're all at one table, everybody is right there. So it's like at home. And so that's what I know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Winston. That's good to know.
Yes,
That was good to hear too.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question. According to the CDC, recent estimates in the United States show that about 1 in 6, or about 17% of children aged 3 through 17, have one or more developmental disabilities and make up a growing portion of the student body. Many of these students are quite capable, but also tend to learn differently than their peers, requiring more staff and resources in order to implement programs. Oftentimes, only the minimum requirements in terms of service are provided. How would you manage ensuring that these students are identified and receive the services they need on an individual level in order to reach their full potential in our parish? And can you offer any new ideas, methods, or programs that are outside of the traditional way special education services have been provided?
Okay. Special education is very important. And when I was teaching, I had a rule that I was going to teach all of my children in my class as if they had special needs, because the bottom line is every student deserves to get their free, appropriate public education, and make sure that we provide equity and equal access for all. So what I would do is look and make sure that we are providing the services that we need. We may have to write grants through IDEA and other grants that are out there to help us, so we can maybe contract other time within our schools to make sure that the students are getting what they need. We need programs in place where students are able to see someone who has been successful like them. We get speakers coming in and talking and motivating them to keep pushing on. Some of the children that are in those tracks may not necessarily need to be in those tracks, if that makes any sense. They have been over-identified, and so we need to make sure that we go back and we reassess and we look at the children that we have in those programs to make sure that they really need to be in those programs, and then that'll free up more time on the children that really need to be serviced as well. There are many programs out there, but I think the social emotional learning is the number one that we need to do. And not only just looking at each child as if this is a visually impaired child and this is a visually impaired child, and you just gonna provide a device for both of them. That is equity, but it might not be equal access for all. So we have to become an educational surgeon and actually identify what is going on to each individual child, making sure we check with the families as well to see how they're acting and behaving in class, making those phone conversation with parents. I think we need to talk to parents not only when things are just bad, You know, you always pick up the telephone when a child is and bad. Nobody wants to hear that their child is bad all the time. Okay, because that is their precious cargo. That is their child. And actually is our child. And so that's the first thing that I would do as superintendent is make sure that every student in Assumption Parish is my child. And that will help me to be a superintendent to make sure that every child gets what he or she deserves.
Thank you very much. Mr. Winston, in closing, you have 3 minutes.
I talk fast too. Okay, I know that you have a hard job that's ahead of you to select the superintendent of schools. And I'm going to pray for you that God gives you what you need to do to move the district forward. I believe that I have the stamina, what it takes. I believe that I have the social skills, the people person skills. I believe I have the knowledge. I have multiple network opportunities that can make sure that Assumption Parish gets every penny that they deserve. And I will make sure that I put children first. You know, it is easier for us to build a strong child than it is to repair a broken adult. And that is something that we have to think about. Building children along the way, making sure that we're building a solid foundation and building those relationships. I mean, I have no problem, and they'll say, I will visit households, I will do whatever, you know, it takes to make sure that the community and the children who is our future, they said they're the future for tomorrow, or they are the education for tomorrow. But I have a message today to let you know that they are the children for today. We can't wait until tomorrow. We have to keep education ourselves, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice to uproot. I've been in my parish for 23 years, but I'm willing to make a sacrifice to come and continue to keep holding up the bloodstained banner of Assumption Parish Schools. And I thank you so much for allowing me to interview and take out time out of your busy schedule to interview for this position. And I thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Winston.
Thank you. There will be no action taken tonight. Just know that at the meeting on tomorrow night, the board will select either 2 finalists or possibly the next superintendent.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You all be safe.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave these as the entry plans for the public, for anyone that would like.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, so next on the agenda, we have discussion and or action concerning next steps in superintendent selection process. So, yes.
Would it be, speaking to Mr. Hammond, it is possible, because we have notified the candidates that tonight there was a possibility in writing that we could go in executive session with them. Since we're not doing that, would it be apropos to have a follow-up meeting to discuss all the candidates in executive session to review anything that we might have moving forward with the next step? I mean, I'm just throwing that out, and Mr. Hammond may want to comment.
Certainly, you already have an item on the agenda that allows you to discuss the character and quality, professional competence of each of the applicants. And they've all consented to the executive session. So you have the right to go into executive session to discuss that. You certainly don't have to make any decisions.
Right.
In executive session. But you certainly do have the right to discuss their qualifications after hearing from each of them tonight. So should you choose to do that, you have the opportunity to do that.
Right.
The other thing I was going to add while I have the floor is that if in fact, at tomorrow night, you're going to have, the first question that the board's going to have to answer is, do you want a second round of interview or not? And if the answer is no, we're prepared, then you would each receive a ballot that had the names of 4 individuals. Each board member would select one name, and you'd keep voting until somebody got a majority vote for the membership of the board. Conversely, if you decided you did want a second round, the next question would be, how many people do we want in the second round? And then the next question would be, which people do you want in the second round? And just by way of example, should you decide that you want to go to the second field from 4 to 2, then you would take the same ballot, and each board member would check 2 names. 2 individuals before that she would like to see interviewed a second time. You sign it, turn it in, and it will be read out loud with your name and your selections. Each of you will be asked to confirm that is in fact who you selected as the 2 finalists on the position. And again, just the benefit of the board and the public from that perspective, we don't have a voting machine. We have no other way to vote simultaneously. So the use of the ballots allows the board members to vote simultaneously. So one side doesn't get to hear the votes of the other side before they cast them up. Everybody votes their own conscience, vote, your own feelings as to who should be brought back, and you do that simultaneously while the submission to the document then read out loud. Those ballots are attached to the minutes. They're public record. Everybody can see them after they're read out loud. There's no big secret there. The only secret is the fact that you can be bound to vote simultaneously rather than voting one at a time. So again, as president, you have the right to the executive session. Should you choose to go into it at this point, discuss candidates, or if you choose not to do that, that's fine as well. Tomorrow night at the meeting, those are the questions that you think.
So we would need a motion to go into executive session?
Yes. So if you want to go back into executive session, we require a motion second and 2/3 of the board.
What is the possibility of going into executive
Right.
session tomorrow?
That's what I
Not
was like.
tonight.
Not tonight.
That way you have constituents, people in your ward call you into they feel, rather than us going in
Tonight.
not knowing
What they feel.
what our, being this is public and we're under the microscope. I think we need to hear from our constituents, but I think we will. Can we do that before instead of tonight or before?
The only thing
Okay.
the only thing that is that not on the agenda, so we would have to add it. It's less than 24 hours, so it has to be unanimous to add it to.
You have to do government, and actually, somebody that asked me this question, right? In order to go into executive session to talk about the character and professional competence of an individual, you have to give that individual 24 hours written notice of your intention to do so. We did that at the meeting. Every one of 4 got no 24-hour written notice of the possibility of executive session. Not knowing that the board might want an executive session tomorrow night, they have not received 24-hour written notice for the meeting tomorrow night. So might be able to do that, contact the board and asking them if they would choose to waive their right to receive the 24-hour notice so that the board can go into executive session. You have to do one or the other. You either have to give them the notice, which you could not do, of course, by tomorrow night, or alternatively, you have to contact each of the 4, ask them if they had no objection to the board going into executive session. If all 4 said they had no objection, well, then you would reflect that meeting and the board could do that tomorrow night. That would be the way that to accomplish. What is the, Ms. Randall, I forgot the wording used for the agenda item tomorrow night.
Is it the election finally?
Yeah, it was pretty, I think it was pretty broad as all. I think it said something about either selection or I don't know, next steps in the
Next steps.
selection process.
No, next step was, the next step
That was tonight.
I think tomorrow is, no, I'm trying to pull it up now.
I think it was both. I think we put down there, we put 2 items on the agenda, as I recall. One was either selection of the superintendent or
The next steps.
next steps in the superintendent selection process. I think that's the way that we put on there intentionally for that reason. So if in fact if that item is on the agenda, as I think it is, then you could do this.
I am trying.
That's.
Next step.
The item says selection of superintendent finalists or discussion and/or of next step superintendent selection.
Right, that's what I thought it was. So that would give you the right to go into executive session. If you wanted to go into executive session, that item would be on the agenda. Then you just have to comply with, get permission from the applicant. That's what you would have.
I prefer that.
I would like to just make this comment. We all witnessed 4 candidates, and as Mr. Robinson Washington said, that in other comments, that we had 4 very good candidates that expressed a desire to be here. And whether or not we should, I'm just throwing this out for discussion. I would not be opposed to spending a little time on all the candidates. We got 4. We're trying to make the most important decision that a board can make. Unless the majority of the board says we're going to cut it down to 2. Right now, I don't know if I want to do that. As I said, all of them had different styles and had some strong points. Some I was looking for a few different answers, but possibly between now and tomorrow, we could finalize another question or 2, not necessarily as long, but just to get a pulse of the second round, and it might be worth the time. So I'm just throwing that out there instead of limiting to 2. Maybe give them each a few more minutes to finalize the thoughts, and then we can decide on the vote thereafter. Just a thought.
So you would want them all to come back tomorrow?
No.
Well, unless we vote tonight, I would think they would all have to, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
No.
The item on the agenda to select the finalist, however many deemed as finalists, or select steps. And Rob is saying that the next step could be just selecting the superintendent. Like you can decide not to narrow it down to finalists. You can vote on one person to now be your next.
Or 2, but not.
Or whatever next step you all will.
That would be what John is talking about. It could be a next step.
He said
The next step would be to bring them all back.
Could be a next. I'm saying
You have
it
a 4 as another 8.
Could be a suggestion, in terms of bringing them all. We create a question or 2 for each candidate. If they have another opportunity to sleep on it, pray on it. As I said, this is an important decision.
Yes.
And the more time we have, the more observation. That's just something I think that cannot hurt, but possibly will be revealing for a final vote that we can come together on.
So we've been having these resumes for the better part of about 2 weeks. I think each of us have had ample amount of time to look at them and review them. I think the interviews went well tonight, and based on that, each of their performances, I think that we can make a good choice tomorrow night. To narrow it down to 2, but I really don't foresee us prolonging this by going interviewing all 4 candidates all over again and going through this process over where you're gonna stop, where you're gonna end up at.
Right.
So my take is, I assume get here tomorrow. select the top two candidates. If the board opts to go into executive session at that point,
On those
further
two.
discuss those two candidates, whomever they may be, then yes, I'm on board with that, but just to start all over again, we'll never get nowhere with this.
Right. I do.
Threw it out there.
I agree with that, except that I think I would rather go into executive session for selecting two.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, just so we can discuss
All four.
all four. That's fine.
I can vouch for
Get
what you're saying.
input from
All four.
people in the ward, the constituents, because that's who we answer to.
Let's first see if we're gonna need a boat to get out of here though.
I agree.
We have to contact a candidate tonight to ask them to waive their rights.
Yes.
Allow.
Right.
Louisiana law says they're entitled to receive a department so that they can decide something applies.
Should I email that so that we can have it in writing that they waive their rights?
It would be better to confirm it in writing, send them an email indicating that the board is considering the possibility of an executive session tomorrow night's meeting to discuss their character, professional competence.
Yeah.
And do they have any objection to the board doing that in executive session?
And I can't see them objecting.
If we get emails back from them, I can report that to the board tomorrow night. And I think we're good to go as far as executive session would be concerned.
So when y'all say y'all narrow it down to two, you'll have to interview questions with those two again? Or what?
Those will happen on August 4th.
Okay, that's good. So that's what we'll do.
Unless we decide.
Oh, okay. One. Okay. Yeah. I prefer
I
Rick.
think one of the things that you'll have to decide tomorrow night too,
Right.
is after you select whether you go, do it tomorrow night, whether you do it the following week, and then you select how many, then you select who, then you have to select how.
Right. Okay.
And there's a whole multitude of different ways that you can do the question. Do it this way, or you can do it a whole bunch of different ways. That's one of those other decisions that are listed in that agenda item will get made tomorrow night.
Okay. All right, so we don't need any motion tonight. It would be,
I would think so.
Except to,
it would be tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Just to notify the candidates.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
No, that's in the process, in the steps,
I
son.
mean, I don't know, do you need a motion for me to notify the candidates or?
I think
It's in the steps.
No,
I wouldn't
not
think
to do that.
I think that we should do that.
But it's in the steps.
Somebody would feel better making a motion and getting that approved with at least 50 minutes.
Okay. Just do
I
it.
think we can do that anyway.
Okay.
All right.
Madam Supervisor, would you like to read a motion that so it's minutes?
I don't know if I have a right. to
No,
motion.
you
Not a-
gotta take the
not being a
president.
board member.
He said,
Madam President.
Oh, Madam President.
Well, Mr. Hammond says we don't, then.
Yeah, we really don't.
Well, let's put it this way. We are going to notify the board
right.
and ask the board if
That's
they
the
have
next
any
practice.
objection, unless the board tells us not to do so.
Okay.
No.
Because
Go
that's the
forward.
next
Go
What's
with
he
it.
doing?
question. Okay.
All right. So if,
Let me add, Madam President, I thought some of your questions were excellent. I've done this about 200 times. I'm always intrigued by the questions that come from the board members. And I thought that y'all had some really good questions tonight. And also, I'm listening very carefully for overlap. I didn't see any overlap. Somebody did a good job of making sure that we don't do
Yeah.
Madam President did
I
that.
was Rick doing
thank y'all.
votes. That's why I wanted to
So with that being said, if there's no further discussion,
Yeah, I'm about to say.
I feel moved that we adjourn.
motion to adjourn, motion by Ms. Dugas, second by Ms. Orso, all in
He
favor?
went by here.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Let's go have a snack.